Good morning, my dear fangs. Welcome back to the cavern. I hope you all are well and enjoyed your weekends. May your week be off to a wonderful start. To the newcomers, welcome. I'm Kasara, bringing the horror and the strange. As some of you know, I finally got to watch Jennifer's Body, and I think that was earlier this year. It's actually become one of my favorites. If you're curious to know my entire opinion of the film, check the link out above me to see the full review. What I didn't know was the movie was inspired by a true crime case from 1995. And I will tell you that the details might be triggering to some of you, so watch at your own risk. It's disgusting and brutal, to say the least. Also, if you would be incredibly kind, hit that like and subscribe buttons to join the Fangly. It's the best thing to do, trust me. And a huge thank you to the new fangs for showing your support. I appreciate you so much, and it's amazing to see my numbers grow. Any little bit always makes me light up. I know it's probably pathetic, but it means more people are taking an interest in my channel, which is great. That's what I want. On July 22nd, 1995, 15-year-old Elise Poller was reported missing from her home in Arroyo Grande, California. She was a freshman at the high school when she vanished without a trace. The case was cold for 8 months until 1996. Someone came forward and made a confession. 17-year-old Royce Casey contacted the police and led them to Elise's body. Her partially mummified remains were sprawled out a quarter-mile from her home in a eucalyptus grove. Elise had been strangled and stabbed to death. She was stabbed a total of 12 times, but none of the stab wounds were fatal. Unfortunately, she died slowly to death by bleeding out. In addition to Casey, two other teens, 16-year-old Jacob Delishmut and 15-year-old Joseph Fiorella, were arrested and charged with murder, gang involvement, rape, torture, and conspiracy. Following the arrest, prosecutors revealed that the three teenagers formed a musical group to glorify Satan and earn a ticket to hell. They believed that by killing Elise, the success of their band Hatred would improve because she was a virgin, which was the ultimate sin against God. The complete details of the murder are disturbing and unbelievable what these teenagers did to this poor girl. While interviewing the boys, the police found that they lured Elise out to the eucalyptus grove on the Nipomo Mesa under the promise of giving her drugs. The foursome smoked some marijuana before Delishmut put a belt around Elise's neck. Then the trio proceeded to torture and sexually assault her before stabbing her with a hunting knife one of them had brought. During the murder, Elise begged for help, crying for her mother and Jesus. What's more disgusting is this trio then beat her while she was bleeding to death. In the aftermath, Elise's family filed a lawsuit against the band Slayer, alleging that their lyrics had incited the teens to murder their daughter. They were seeking monetary damages as well as to halt their practice of marketing violent music towards juveniles. Ultimately, the lawsuit would be thrown out. Slayer lyrics are repulsive and profane, but they do not direct or instruct listeners to commit the acts that resulted in the vicious torture murder of Elise Poller, Judge Burke wrote. Fiorella reached a plea agreement in which he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in exchange for life in prison with a minimum of 26 years. Casey pleaded no contest to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 21 years. Delishmut also pleaded to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 26 years. In 2021, Casey had a shot for parole. Some members of Elise's family, including her father, said that they did not oppose the release. Casey was said to express sincere remorse over the murder and had been the one to confess and lead the police to her body. In prison, he had a 20-year record of model behavior and had participated in a number of rehabilitation programs, as well as earned his GED and was working towards his bachelor's degree in psychology and sociology. During his parole hearing, he described Elise as a truly wonderful person. He said that while behind bars, he had learned self-acceptance, and that when he was a teenager, he had a desire to portray an image of being violent. He stated that when he thinks of Elise, he thinks how immense the suffering is that he caused Elise, and that she didn't have a life anymore because of him. She had to feel so much pain while I was murdering her. End quote. Casey would be granted parole by the California Parole Board. However, San Luis Obispo County District Attorney Dan Dow wrote a letter to the governor opposing the release. In the letter, he wrote that Casey has never adequately explained why he participated in such a sadistic and heinous crime. Ultimately, Governor Gavin Newsom would deny the grant to parole, reversing the parole board decision. All three men are still incarcerated. What are your thoughts on this crime? Do you think Casey should have been granted parole? Do you think heavy metal music is to blame for such violent crimes? That could also be said for violent video games. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I actually agree with the district attorney's feelings towards Casey being, not getting parole. I don't think he should. Because what he did was disturbing for anyone to do to another human being. I don't care. It's very cold and callous to not care about another individual and do what they did to her. I think they should be in jail for the rest of their lives. I understand we all make mistakes when we're young, but this is a whole nother thing. It's not the same thing as taking a car for a joyride or getting incredibly drunk and doing something stupid. I also don't believe metal music is to blame for the actions of anyone. As someone who has been listening to metal music of all forms since the age of 12, it did not and does not make me more violent. If anything, it has helped me immensely throughout my life. What many people don't understand is metal music, for the most part, talks about real issues that other genres don't really touch on. It talks about mental health, societal issues, abuse, and every hardship that many of us face in our lives. It helps to know that we're not alone in what we're going through or feeling. It's how it helped me through all of the hard times of my life, including some of the traumatic events in my life. I think people who blame metal music and bands have never taken the time to actually listen to the lyrics or the message behind the songs. They just hear people screaming and immediately think negatively. My mom actually was one who thought that bands, metal music specifically, all were angry and just pissed off for no reason and were just screaming. You couldn't actually understand a word they were saying, so why would you listen to it? I'll take Linkin Park, for example. They were actually one of the first bands I started listening to when I was 12. And some of the stuff that Chester talked about in the songs really helped me when I was going through some hard shit. I was bullied a lot during that time period of my life, and my parents were fighting constantly, so I really didn't have anyone to go to about the shit that was going on at school. So I went to heavy metal music, whereas my mom really wanted me to listen to pop music and nothing else, because that's what girls are supposed to listen to, according to societal's thought patterns. So she didn't understand why I started listening to metal. She blamed Dad for me listening to metal music, because he listened to it. But it really boiled down to my mom really not wanting anything to do with me, and then the bullying at school. It was a lot for me to take and go through. And then when I got to high school, the bullying wasn't as bad, but I was still trying to understand who I was. I think every teenager does. They all try to figure out who they are, who they want to be. Try to find themselves instead of trying to be what their parents might want them to be or what their peers want them to be. I know college usually is also where people do that as well. They find themselves. But it usually starts in high school. And my interest in metal music just kept growing. It went from Linkin Park and Stained and Disturbed to Black My Heart, which is a hardcore metal band. Atreyu, Children of Bodom. and a bunch of other bands that were really, really heavy that are probably really surprising for some of you. And today I listened to Motionless in White, Ice Nine Kills, In This Moment, Lorna Shore, and so many more bands. It's wide-ranging. And I don't know if any of you listen to it, but what are some of your favorite metal bands? And why do you like metal music? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe we can talk about how it helped us through the hardest points in our lives. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to my rambles. I hope you all enjoy the video and learn the horrifying truth behind Jennifer's body. And I'm so sorry that it was bleak and just absolutely devastating what happened to this girl, in my opinion. I feel so bad for the family. I think I now have a new appreciation for the film Jennifer's Body, because I believe she gets revenge on the band members that did what they did to her. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week. May it be amazing. Friday, I'm going to dig into the story behind Sweeney Todd, which is not actually easy. I have a book about Sweeney Todd, and I actually read it, but it's totally different from the movie, and I don't know which one is accurate. So I'm going to do some digging. I know it's based on a true story, so I'm going to do a lot of digging and see what I can find. I'll also share some of my favorite musicals, because Sweeney Todd is a musical, for those of you that didn't know that. If you can't wait for the upcoming content, click the bell icon to never miss a video. Take care until next time, and stay awesome, my lovely things. Bye, everyone.